Continuing our programs on veterans' mental health, our guest is retired Chief Warrant Officer Brady Busby. His area of expertise, intelligence. During his 14 years of service, 9 of his postings were in combat zones, including Iraq and Afghanistan. Chief Warrant Officer Busby suffered both physical and mental injuries during that time, and his recovery continues. Brady Busby, Chief Warrant Officer, thank you for your service. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, sir.
I want to turn the clock back. Turn the clock back when you were 13 years old and a scoutmaster, also a veteran of a previous war, is teaching you about fly fishing and tying flies. Can you visualize that in your mind?
Oh, yeah. Great. He was a scoutmaster of mine. I was in the Boy Scouts. Not super active, but anytime they went on a camp out or something, I loved it. So we were at Big Lake, Arizona on a camp, and he showed me how to cast a fly rod for the first time. And I had a 15-inch rainbow trout come up and eat my dry fly, and I didn't know what to do, so I turned around and ran up the bank. So I was hooked at a young age, and it's been proven to really help me out in my life. So.
When you say you were hooked, no joke intended there, right?
No pun intended. No.
What about your love of nature? That has served you well, but also kind of in parallel is your love of adventure.
Yes, I've been very adventurous throughout my life. I have a lot of stories to tell. Not all good, some bad, but I have a lot of living under my 47 years in life. So.
Well, I always say that life is kind of good, bad, and so so I can sign off to that as well. What drew you to the military? Was it partially under the wing of your veteran scoutmaster? Was that something that played a role?
I've always been patriotic from a young age. My grandfather was in World War II. He was a fighter pilot, and I never understood him until I got older. And but he did serve our country, and I worked at a TV station when I was in my 20s, and I saw that there was a war coming, and I read the signs, and I signed up. Listed as an E1 private, and worked my way up through the ranks until I was a Chief Warrant Officer 2 when I was retired. So,
I gather you were in the military for 14 years, but
yes.
9 of those years were in combat zones. Is that correct?
Yeah, my wife likes to point out that I was deployed. The 14 years, about 9.5, I was gone for training or deployments. So,
what were some of the countries or some of the areas in which you served?
Okay, well, I started off my first tour in Kosovo with 10th Mountain Division. After that, I went to Korea for a year with an MI battalion there. Then I volunteered to go to Iraq for the NSA. So I did 3 tours in Iraq with the Special Forces. And when I got my commission as a warrant officer, then I had to leave the Special Forces, I guess, and go back to the conventional Army. But then I was highly specified in signals intelligence. And so I did that up until I was retired.
So you served in both Iraq and Afghanistan.
And Afghanistan.
Yeah,
I did 3 tours in Afghanistan.
Is that correct? 3 tours each time around?
Yes, 3. Yeah, 3 in Iraq and 3 in Afghanistan. And my last tour, my last tour in Afghanistan, and I got back in November of 2010.
At what point along the way were you physically injured? Is that correct?
Yeah, I have those injuries that mission came first a lot of the times. So I had some back injuries. I had a traumatic brain injury that kind of finished me off, but back, neck, and then obviously the TBI, so the brain injury, and severe combat-related PTSD by my third tour in Afghanistan.
So at times, both physically and mentally and emotionally, you were just in incredible pain, huh?
Yeah, pain is relative. I've been through a lot, but I just keep plugging away and taking one day at a time.
When I use the word pain, you smiled at the same time. How is that even possible?
It's just constant. So sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's not. You know, the mental, makes the pain worse. So like I said, I have good days, and occasionally I do have bad days. Those are getting farther between each other lately, so that is a good thing.
So it still exists, huh?
Yes, I take medication. I still have nightmares, cold sweats, intrusive thoughts, memories that I don't like to think about. So that's why fly fishing was so important to me, because I do have all those invisible wounds that people can't see. Even though I did have, I was walking with a cane for a while there after I was retired because of my back. But I started fly fishing. That was the only time that I didn't walk with a cane.
Wow.
Was when I was fishing or at home. And so now I can walk. No one would know that I used to not be able to walk.
Wow.
And walked with a limp. And not only did it help me physically, but mentally, I found that it's almost impossible to think about two things at once. So when you're fly fishing, you're always, like you said, trout only live in beautiful places. So growing up being in Colorado, I was a fly fishing guide and helped instruct other people how to do it. And just the whole process, the tying of the flies, the reading the current, spotting the fish, setting, netting. It's a whole process that takes some skill, and it's taken a lifetime, and I still have more to learn. So
let's hold on that note. Brady, if I may call you Brady, take a little break. Yes. We're talking with Brady Busby, Chief Warrant Officer, retired, coming to us from Arizona. Beautiful day there in Arizona. We'll take a little break. Back on the other side. This is America and the World. Underwriting for This is America and the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., featuring the 29th National Japan Bowl, a Japanese language and culture competition, streaming live April 9th, 2021. The National Association for Children of Addiction. Faces and Voices of Recovery. The Forerunner Foundation. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Sultanate of Oman. The Kingdom of Morocco. And the Embassy Series, Uniting People Through Musical Diplomacy. Brady, when you retired from the military, that transition, I gather from my reading and from talking with others who are veterans, that transition from military life to civilian life is just so difficult. I never even came close to understanding. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Separating was, I was one of the first severe combat PTSD patients, and they didn't really know what to do with me. So the whole process was really drawn out. It took about a year and a half for them to finally retire me. So the whole process, I was pretty upset. They didn't really give me a choice in the matter. I joined to serve, my country, and I wanted to make a career out of it. So after 14 years, and they tell you there's no place for you in the Army anymore, and it's time for you to retire. As a 37-year-old, that was pretty hard to take. And going from, being in charge of soldiers and equipment and secrets to not having a job and, being 37, I didn't really know what to do. So I went back to college, got my degree, which was extremely hard with a brain injury. But I had tutors. I took a pretty interesting major. I was a geography and environmental studies major at University of Colorado in Colorado Springs, and I minored in geology. So I tried to pick the most relaxing major I could, and it was a good experience. But going back to school helped retrain my brain how to think, if that makes sense. Kind of reprogrammed me a little bit.
What were some of the symptoms that you were experiencing, even going through your studies and going through college? What was going on as far as PTSD is concerned, post-traumatic stress disorder?
Well, nightmares have always been a thing. They were still working my medications out, so I had a lot of mental ups and downs. Triggering events, crowds, looks on people's faces just remind me of certain situations, and profiling. It's just everything was not right, and to this day, still there's some things that aren't right, and I just have to, keep taking medication and do what the doctors, it's not what they tell me to do. It's just they encourage me in certain directions in my life. And as long as I can focus on those things, I'm doing okay.
I want to be very respectful in asking this question, but those of us who have not had any experience with war, can you, and not to cause you pain right now in asking the question, but can you offer us any pictures or any things that come to mind that would give us an appreciation for the tremendous sacrifice that our soldiers perform for us as a country when they're in harm's way? Something come to your mind?
When I was first in Kosovo, my girls were little, and seeing kids in that just part of the world and seeing their hardships really got to me, and that progressed from Kosovo to Iraq, to Afghanistan, just seeing the locals. And at one point I was out on patrol, and a kid came up with his little sister, and she wanted me to see me, and I almost had to shoot him, because at that point in Iraq, we didn't know if there was car bombs. There was vehicle or people-borne improvised explosive devices where they would just go up and blow themselves up. I've been in areas where everyone gave you that evil eye, where they just looked like they wanted to cut your head off. So when I see that look, it automatically takes me through some bad places, and I've had to see some pretty bad stuff, and keeping that bottled up, it's not good.
So if I understand correctly, on a day-to-day basis, even back here in America, you can read a look in someone's eye and it will trigger these memories and these flashbacks?
Yeah, it's flashbacks are interesting. Certain smells, looks, crowded. I don't do crowds very well. Fireworks definitely. New Year's was interesting, but you know, I've gone through a lot of training to help get me through some of these situations. I have prolonged exposure training. I have grounding techniques that I all learned through Operation Mend. You had talked about that a little bit, but great techniques that I just learned that I didn't know when I first got out. So the transition is hopefully getting better for others now that since I've been through, and war is hell. So hopefully it won't happen anymore.
I want to ask you this question, Brady. For a man and for a veteran, was it difficult to ask for help, or how did that come about for you?
Yeah, it was after my last deployment in Afghanistan. You know, you don't just turn a switch off. I had been gone so much and just constantly coming and going. So this time I came home and my wife automatically recognized that something wasn't right. You know, waking up in the middle of the night and not know where I am, panic attacks, things like that. And so when I went to talk to a doctor, I pretty much knew it was the end of my career as a military intelligence officer. And at that point, you know, I just broke down, and things just went from there. So I had held up a lot in my mind for a long time, and finally it just all came out.
At some point along the way, you lost your daughter, Ashley.
Yes, I did.
And I read someplace that you first got involved in Wounded Warrior in the project with Talk. Can you tell the folks what Talk is?
Okay, so Wounded Warrior Project, they've helped me out a lot post-military, helped me get my benefits squared away and everything. And then I did a soldier ride with them for Wounded Warriors. And then my daughter passed away from suicide when she was 19, back in 2018. And I received a call from Wounded Warrior Project, and the person I talked to realized the situation and put me in contact with the Talk program, the Warrior Talk program. And so what happened is I talked to a volunteer once a week for a year. They would call just to check on me. We would talk about an hour. It's not a, you know, it wasn't like a licensed therapist or anything. So there was no, you know, stigma attached to it. It was just talking to someone and allowing myself to talk through some things. And then from that Warrior Talk, once I was done with that, that's when I was able to go and see the people at UCLA for the Wanted Warrior Care Network and Operation Mend. And they really helped me get my life into focus.
That 2 or 3 weeks in Operation Mend out there, just the going through the program must have been stressful, huh? They really work you over, huh?
Yes, it does. It's hard work. It's very intensive. I remember I was coming off of Valium that I'd been on for 20 or 15 years. And, I've had to come off painkillers, Valium, all sorts of stuff. And so I was coming off of Valium while I was there. And I can remember distinctly doing some work with some horses and almost just breaking down because this horse would not pay attention to me. I was trying to get the horse to do what, and the horses pick up on mental energy and things like that. So the horse just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And yeah, I struggled.
Had a
it was hard
meltdown?
work, but I think the processing therapy, the equine therapy, art therapy, group therapy, and just learning about PTSD and all the triggers and everything that goes with it, just really helped.
I gather, Brady, that there are triggers that bring these pictures, smells, whatever experiences back. But one of the things that's going on in the care network and these intensive periods of time is you're learning to identify the triggers and also learn certain techniques and certain ways to handle them. I guess that's the only way I can say it, right?
Yes, and the triggers, my wife, she was there with me. So my wife Sarah and my daughter Emma, they're my support system. So Sarah's been trained too. I mean, she was there at Operation End with me, so she knows when I'm going from 0 to 100 on things, and if I'm getting angry for no reason, she knows how to calm me down. And some of these grounding techniques and stuff, we understand them now. Where before I'm just angry and I didn't know why, or panic attack for no reason, things like that.
You got a whole lot of other things in your life that people should know about. You've written a book.
Yes.
You're a painter.
Yes.
You're working with other people about your love of nature, taking them on fishing trips, teaching them. You've created an organization.
We do have an Ashley Busby Foundation that we started after my daughter passed away, where we give scholarships out, and I put on a fishing tournament in her honor that we're going to try to do every year with Project Healing Waters. That's another nonprofit that I am very involved in, and I do a lot of veteran outreach, things as well. So I keep pretty busy.
I just want to. The title of the book is Healing Waters: A Life of Hardship, Faith, and Family. I looked it up on Amazon, and I saw the 5-star reviews, and I said, I should be so lucky, that what an accomplishment. We both know how difficult it is to write a book. It's writing, it's rewriting, it's lonely, it's staring at a blank screen or a blank pad of paper. What do you love about nature? What do you love about nature? Tell me that. That's important for us to know. What do you love about nature?
The fresh air, getting away from things of man, getting back into God's country. And I mean, if you just look at things, I mean, I'm fascinated with geology, for instance. Like I go out and find minerals and collect different minerals and things like that. So even the little things fascinate me, and the intricacies of animals and things like that. It's just something good to focus on, and I try to do that in my life, is just focus on good things at this point.
Slow down, huh?
Yeah, just slow down.
Thank you so much for the conversation. You're a wonderful example that treatment works, has for me in other areas, but I really appreciate your sharing your story with us, and it's really an honor to meet you. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sure that people listening to the program will have a higher regard for those who serve our country in uniform, and I'm just thrilled to talk with you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
If you are in crisis or know someone who is, these resources offer immediate help. For information about This Is America in the World, visit our website, thisisamerica.net, or our YouTube channel, This Is America TV, and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Underwriting for This Is America in the World is made possible by the Japan-America Society of Washington, D.C., featuring the 29th National Japan Bowl, a Japanese language and culture competition, streaming live April 9th, 2021. The National Association for Children of Addiction. Faces and Voices of Recovery. The Forerunner Foundation. The Rotondaro Family Trust. The Sultanate of Oman. The Kingdom of Morocco. And the Embassy Series, Uniting People Through Musical Diplomacy.